Sorry about that. We'll edit that. Please welcome to the show, Dave Innis.
That was great all the way up till that.
Oh, man.
This is Dave Innis from Restless Heart, and you are listening to the Tony Pruitt Show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's show of the Tony Pruitt Show. And today's guest is another country music legend. He is an award-winning keyboardist and vocalist, songwriter, producer, engineer, and an original member of the country music band Restless Heart and member of the Oklahoma Music Hall of Fame. Restless Heart had 6 Grammy nominations, 5 CMA nominations, and winners of the 1990 Academy of Country Music Vocal Group of the Year Award. They also had 5 gold records with RCA. And I've seen him before personally, and he is simply amazing. Please welcome to the show, my friend, Mr. Dave Innis. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic, Tony. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, man, you're welcome. You've got quite a resume, don't you?
Well, I've been very blessed. It's been quite an adventure. And the adventure continues now that my wife and I have moved down here to Waco, the friendliest town in the whole USA.
It's a pretty good place to live.
Oh, man, I'm never leaving. You're going to have to bury me here.
Do you ever just sit back and reflect? A boy from Oklahoma has just accomplished everything that you've done. That's amazing.
Well, again, I had a great team of people around me, and my mom was my piano teacher early on, and a lot of it, is hard work, and then a lot of it is standing in the right place at the right time. And I was fortunate to have some pretty good timing, and I met people along the way that mentored me and helped me out. So, but yeah, it's been quite a wild ride, and I've gotten to do a lot of things, go a lot of places, and meet a lot of people that I never would have dreamed of when I was, starting out and having, bands in high school and playing the bar circuit.
Absolutely. I want to give a quick shout out to my longtime friend, Allison Cooper Stanley, who kind of hooked us up. So here's a shout out to Miss Allison, my girl.
Yes, and Allison is actually, she was our agent, our real estate agent, and sold us the house that we're living in here in Waco. And we did it over over FaceTime. We were still in Nashville, and we called her up, and she walked us through the house, and she said, "Listen, the market's hot down here. If y'all want something, you shouldn't wait." And so we just said, "Okay, we'll take it."
Wow, unbelievable.
Yeah, well, her and Jack, her husband, we call him Coach.
Yep.
He's a legend around here in Waco, and we call ourselves the old guard because they're the first people we met.
They're good people,
and we have them over quite a bit.
We've known them for many years.
She is amazing, and so is Jack.
Yes, they are. My first question, I want to start off with the best thing in your life, and that's your amazing wife, Adrian. How'd you guys meet?
I have 2 amazing kids too, but yes, my wife, Adrian, she actually was a stylist in Nashville. She styled George and Nancy Jones. That was one of the people but she did a lot of different artists, and Restless Heart was one of them. So I met her on a photo shoot, and I worked up my courage and asked her out, and the rest is history.
That's so cool.
There's a lot of details to that I'm glossing over, but that's the gist of it.
Well, that's okay.
I'm going to say, what a guys, I hear him say, I outkicked my punt coverage. Yeah, I definitely married up. No question about it. She'd have a scalawag like me.
Well, me and you both did, to tell you the truth. Well, like I said, I've been doing some research. I've been watching all kinds of stuff on YouTube. I mean, I saw you on American Bandstand and Johnny Carson. I mean, that's just amazing to me. What can you imagine? You would have such opportunities like that. That's just so cool.
I would not, absolutely, and to see Johnny there, after our performance with his pencil and saying good stuff. That if you could get Johnny to say good stuff, that was a huge deal.
Oh, absolutely.
And Dick Clark was such he was a really kind and sincere man, and what a legend, huh? I remember American Bandstand like it was yesterday. And then subsequently, after that performance, he asked us to do a bunch of other stuff. Like he used to have this thing called Rockin' New Year's Eve, and we were on there with the Temptations. And I think we did that 3 or 4 years in a row. And he also did a huge outdoor concert event that was broadcast worldwide. That was like the, it was, I don't know, it wasn't bicentennial, but it was some kind of national event. And there were a lot of different artists on that. I sat on a riverboat with the guys from Restless Heart and Glen Campbell.
Oh, I love Glen Campbell.
He was so nice to us. We were just kids, I was in my early 20s.
Wow.
We didn't know what we were doing at the time at all. And he was, Glen Campbell. So the fact that he took the time to encourage us, and he says, y'all need to do a Jimmy Webb song. Of course, Jimmy wrote Wichita Lineman and, Galveston. And by the time I get to Phoenix and, just on and on and on, he's an American legend,
right?
Jimmy. So we finally did I produced a remake of Wichita Lineman on Restless Heart. And
I've seen it. It's incredible.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, we did a video for it as well. Yeah. And, I tried to be true in many respects to the original recording, in that there was a guy named Al DeLore that is a very famous arranger. In fact, he did a lot of the arranging with the Wrecking Crew. And that Glenn was a part of that, it's a legendary rhythm section, played on everybody's record back in the day. Mm-hmm. And so I tried to be true to that orchestral arrangement. And
it's great.
Yeah, we really enjoyed doing it. We did it on our live show too. But yeah, what a song, huh?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, Glenn's version is the definitive version, obviously.
If you haven't seen it, go to YouTube and check it out. It's worth your time. So you're not only a fan of country music, but you're a love of other kinds of music as well. What other kind of music do you enjoy listening to?
Oh, shoot. I enjoy listening to everything as long as it's good. I have an affinity for the blues and for jazz. I'm playing in a little band down here in Waco called the Sanger Heights Blues All-Stars. You came out to see us at one time.
Right? I did.
We were at Stay Class. In fact, we're going to be there again soon. We kind of have a recurring schedule down there. So, but man, what a great place that is. The owners are amazing. Jacob and Katie.
It's a good place.
Yeah. You met them, didn't you? Jacob and Katie. They're really nice folks.
Very nice.
Anyway, so, and so I like to sing and play Ray Charles. He's my favorite keyboard player. I've learned so much from just, trying to transcribe his records. And he's my favorite singer too. He's the most soulful singer I believe I've ever heard.
Interesting.
Yeah. And there's a lot of great singers. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that there's a bunch of folks like me though, that really look up to Ray Charles and for everything that he invented. He was the originator of a lot of this, American art form, blues and jazz. And he's a master of both.
Yeah, he's very good. I enjoy him as well. So my next question is,
I'm trying to answer your question still.
Go ahead. Yeah. Rock and roll.
I do. I love rock and roll. The old stuff. I've developed an affinity for the real old school, like Ernest Tubb, Ray Price. That
is old school. Yeah.
Yeah. And then more modern, Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, that stuff he was doing in the 60s was so amazing. He had his own TV show. Did you ever see that?
I did.
That was great. Yeah, that was a and then I'm a big fan of Tom Jones. He had a TV show too. He did. Still is, an amazing singer and performer, but man, he's a soulful guy. I saw a deal with him singing with Wilson Pickett that was, and he's a legend too. But I was so impressed with that he was keeping up and just on such the same wavelength, performing with Wilson Pickett. I was so taken with that. But yeah, there's a lot of, as long as it's good. I heard a polka band one time that blew me away. They were jamming hard, like jazz players, and bluegrass is the same way. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's a bunch of great performers that are carrying that on, like Marty Stewart and the mm-hmm. Fabulous Superlatives, et cetera, et cetera. But, I like Red Dirt, country. I'm very fortunate, I think, that I have an open mind to all of these different genres of music, because it has really influenced the way that I play and write mm-hmm. and sing. All of those bands in the 70s, the Eagles, obviously, Restless Heart emulated, Pure Prairie League. Vince Gill was in that band for a while. Mm. Poco, Jackson Brown, on and on. Linda Ronstadt, big time. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Oh, yeah, man, that's the good stuff.
I love the 70s for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, my next question kind of ties in with the one we just talked about. Who did you grow up listening to, which we've already talked about, and did you ever get to meet them? That was kind of cool for you.
Well, I love the Glen Campbell show, so getting to meet him, I played on one of his records. Wow. When I was in Nashville before Restless Heart and in the early years, I was a session player. So mm-hmm. what that means is that I was a gun for hire, basically, and I would play recording sessions for the different artists. And, there'd be an account. Like I had the Warner Brothers account, so I worked for Jim Ed Norman, and I did stuff like Anne Murray and Crystal Gale, because he was producing those records. And then I worked through Jerry Crutchfield at MCA, and that was so I, got to work with Lee Greenwood, who's amazing. And, wow. Et cetera. I worked with Jimmy Bowen. So I got to work with Conway Twitty. I'm trying to think, Waylon Jennings.
Wow.
And I love doing that. I did a bunch of it until Restless Heart's touring schedule just got so busy, and our other obligations to RCA. That it kind of slacked off. And of course, now I've kind of aged out of it. But now that I'm here in Waco, I have my own studio. You could probably see some behind me, and I stay pretty busy. People send me tracks, and I play on them. Sometimes they send me stuff to mix and mm-hmm. produce. I add my own flavor to it. But I stay pretty busy doing that. Pal of mine here in town, Chuck Jennings, that is the guitar player and founder of Sanger Heights Blues All Stars. He's come to me, to do music for a podcast that he's working on. And so, I stay really busy with that. He's got another one he wants me to do. So, man, I've been freelancing around here. I played over Woodway Baptist, filling in mm-hmm. for their fantastic, organization over there. They have an 8 choir and a 30-piece orchestra, and their rhythm section for their praise band is amazing. So I really enjoyed doing that. So yeah, man, I'm staying.
Well, we're going to talk about your studio here in a little bit. I want to know more about it. One question that I have from myself is, I grew up a huge Conway Twitty fan. You mentioned him already. Tell me what kind of guy he was.
Oh, he was so nice. He was regaling us with stories and, war stories and road stories. And everybody was just sitting around. Jimmy Bowen would always cater meals in, because once you'd be there, he wanted to keep the vibe, instead of everyone going their own separate ways and then coming back in an hour. He'd cater stuff, and we'd just eat. And it was always a really amazing spread. And wow. So we were doing the session for Conway, and he was the nicest, most genuine, interesting fella. What an artist.
I'm glad to hear that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, most of the good ones are George Jones. So nice, so attentive, and I'm always impressed by entertainers that really take the time not only to meet people and maybe do a photograph and sign an autograph, but to listen to and give people respect and attention. That's something that I've always aspired to. It was always inspirational to see artists that had that characteristic about them. I think that's really important.
Absolutely. That's good to know. Thanks for answering that. I was real curious about that. So let's talk a little bit about the great band Restless Heart. I just love the band. You guys were awesome. So I'm assuming you met Larry Stewart in college. Is that correct?
I did, yeah.
And is that how the band started or not?
Well, not exactly. But in a nutshell, I had mentioned to you that I was a session player. There's a whole story that goes along with this, but one of the first guys I met, in fact, the first guy I met in Nashville, was a songwriter named Jeff Silbar, who was best friends in high school with the guy that I was helping move to Nashville, because I had a pickup truck with a camper shell on it. So we loaded up and all I had was some music gear, so it fit easily into a truck. So he says, hey, we can crash at my buddy's house. He has he's in the music business. And I was like, oh, this will be interesting. So, and I was, let's see how old, I might've been 20 at the time. Yeah, that sounds about right. And anyway, so we got to Jeff's house and he had this really cool modern house, kind of, Frank Lloyd Wright looking spread. And he had a grand piano in his living room, and I crashed on his couch. He was super nice. He heard me play and he said, hey man, you want to do a recording session? Have you ever done one before? And I said, of course I have. Of course I hadn't. But he, you got to get your foot in the door somehow, right? So
absolutely,
you got to know when your opportunity comes, and to fake it till you make it if you have to. So I showed up and I played, did a good job for him. And then after that, I just started working. But he was the song manager. He wrote Wind Beneath My Wings, by the way. So, a very successful songwriter. Yeah. He's a cat. But he was the song writer manager as well at a publishing company that was owned by Bobby Goldsboro. And it was run by Bob Montgomery. Anyway, Jeff worked for him. And there was a guy there that was a songwriter, a staff writer named Tim Dubois, who ended up being the producer of Restless Heart. And he kind of got us all together. It was loosely based around guys from Oklahoma. So the core of the band was me, our guitar player, Greg, and our bass player, Paul, all from Oklahoma. And Tim and his co-producer, Scott Hendricks, also from Oklahoma. Well, the original lead singer for Restless Heart dropped out because he talked it over with his wife and he didn't want to go on the road. But we had already recorded a bunch of stuff and Tim was in a panic about it. And I said, I know a guy I think might work out. He's an amazing singer. Larry and I were actually in another band together that had played around some. And I talked to Larry about it and he was pretty skeptical, but, I gave him Tim's contact information and the two of them got together and somehow Tim talked him into it. And so, the rest is history. Our bass player, Paul, brought our drummer, John Dietrich, in. Great drummer, great singer. Great guy all around. 40 years on the road with the same 5 guys was
it's amazing.
That was quite a feat of engineering.
You're not joking.
That's kind of how it got started. So I brought Larry, our bass player brought our drummer, John, in. And but the three of us were, the nucleus of it. And then once we all sang together for the first time and played together, we knew we had something pretty special. So we showcased for several different labels. We showcased for Capitol. Jim Fogelsong was running Capitol then, and he came and heard us and wanted to sign us. We showcased for several other labels, but the one that really seemed to work the best for us was RCA. They loved all the material that we had recorded, and they wanted to sign that project. So in a way, it was kind of, I'm sure we're not the first band that ever did it, but we had a record ready to go. Once they said, yes, we want to sign you and we want your project. Right. So, you know, that's kind of how that worked. And Tim, our producer, had paid for all of the recording from money he'd made as a songwriter. He had a big hit with Alabama. Trying to think what the Love in the First Degree.
Love it.
Which was a big hit for them. So he had some money rolling in. And he invested it into Restless Heart. He believed in us that much. So, like I said, I've been blessed. I've been standing in the right place at the right time. In this case, it was that I was from the right state. I was born in Oklahoma. So
Oklahoma, yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So that's a long-winded answer, but that's it.
Well, that's a cool story. Yeah. I want to know what it feels like to be sitting in an audience at an award show and hear your name called out amongst all your peers. And I mean, what does that feel like? Does that blow your mind?
It does. When we won Vocal Group of the Year, of course, we had been nominated so many times for that award. And also, Grammys and CMA awards, ACM awards, etc. And we performed on all those shows multiple times, but we had never won. So we were just used to not winning. We were these, it's great to be nominated, which it is. But we didn't think that we were going to win one. We were so used to not winning it, to be honest. And then when they called our names, we were just kind of in disbelief.
Oh, man.
What?
Finally.
Say that again,
That is so cool.
Great. It was a great honor. It still is a great honor. And we were just blown away. But to just be in that group of artists that have won that award is kind of amazing. And again, to be just a country boy from a small town in Oklahoma, and then to walk up on national TV and accept an award for Vocal Group of the Year was, it was an experience that I wouldn't have in my wildest dreams thought that was ever possible. But
that's good. That is good stuff right there. Do you remember how you felt when you got your first gold record?
Yeah, I do. I was just equally blown away. I'd seen gold records before. When I won, that's just out of reach.
And you got 5, right?
Yeah. And I thought this is out of reach, like the Eagles song, the Joe Walsh thinks about gold records. And,
right.
That's kind of, that's a music business trophy,
totally.
to
yes.
generate record sales. And of course, we were fortunate that we, our first records were vinyl records and, cassette tapes and that whole thing. And then only later it was CDs. CDs, of course, now is a medium that is, now to MP3s and streaming and, the whole business model has changed. But
absolutely.
we were making albums. So it really meant a lot each time. And I'd have to say RCA was an amazing label to work with. Joe Galante was running the place. We had a lot of help from the promotion staff there. They had regional promotion guys, Carson Schreiber out in the West, and we had a great guy for the South, Galen. Galen, I think his last name was Adams. Galen but we spent a lot of hours with these guys going around to uh, uh, radio shows, and talking to the DJs there and doing, interviews and, singing a song on there and all of these kinds of things, which really helped us get our music. And then the other thing we did was we opened up shows for Alabama for a couple of years. We toured with them, and they were on painters of they didn't hurt. And, we toured with George Strait and Merle Haggard and the Judge, Reba McEntire. So we had a lot of help opening shows for them, got us out in front of so many people that wouldn't have known it about us, except for that probably. And, we developed a really good and faithful fan base.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
Well, that is so cool. Well, you've traveled the world. I mean, all over the world. And you've played in some really cool places like Radio City Music Hall, the Greek Amphitheater, Grand Ole Opry. What was the one coolest place that you think, in your opinion, that you've played at? Grand
Ole Opry.
Yeah, because the history.
There's no, hands down. That's such an honor to perform there. And we performed at the Opry House. We performed at the Ryman for the Opry, even at War Memorial Auditorium when Nashville had the big flood, because the Opry was underwater. So we went there. But we were asked to be on the Opry. We're not vested members of the Opry, but we were asked to be there. I'd say, 8 to 12 times a year. Well, 8 to 10 without exaggerating, probably.
Wow.
I also was fortunate enough. I was pals with the house piano player, Randy Hart. Great player, great guy. And so I was like the first call sub whenever he, if he got sick or went on vacation or whatever he was doing and he couldn't make the Opry, they could give me a call. And so I got to play with Jeannie Seeley and just lots of different artists that were there. Jim Ed Brown and, all the, let's see, who else did I play for as the sub piano player? Larry Gatlin and his brothers.
Wow. Yeah.
There's a lot of new artists but a lot of legends, which was Helen Cornelius. I'm trying to think, boy, there were just so many people that I met as a result of my work at the Grand Ole Opry. But all the other things were amazing too. Playing at Radio Music Hall was a trip.
The close second, right?
Well, yes, but the other experience that we had, was we did a lot of like USO tours. The ones we did were actually sponsored by the Air Force Reserve that was based in Robbins, on Robbins Air Base in Georgia, and we toured all over the world with them. And Lee Greenwood was another one of the artists that was on that. A lot of different, a lot of war stories and fun tidbits from those tours. I think we did 3 of them.
Wow, that's so cool. I mean, what an experience that you've had. So let's talk about your recording studio. Is that what we call it, recording studio, or?
Well, it's more of a project studio. It's I had it designed and built to certain acoustical standards so that I could trust what I was hearing on my speakers. That's a big deal. But it's just one room. It's kind of my man cave / project studio.
I've seen it.
Yeah, you've been in it. Yeah,
yes.
That's right. That's
right. It's really cool.
So I can record vocals here. I can do guitar overdubs. I do most of my stuff, we call it in the box, which means that it's, inside the computer. I've got a bunch of keyboards that I that I use. So I can record drums here, but I don't do it very often. So I really would have to, cram a drummer in here. I've got the inputs on my rig to make that happen. So I'm sure that one day I'll do that. It's also been doubling as a rehearsal studio, which is great because it sounds really good in here. And it's easy to talk. Right. And, stuff's not bouncing all around like you're in a shower or something, or when you get in a gymnasium, that sound, where everything's bouncing around, there's none of that in here. So, and it's right here in my backyard. So
I was fixing to say, how convenient is that?
Yeah. But it's better to be an outbuilding than to be in the house, because I don't, bug my wife. I'm out here doing my thing, and she's, studying for school. She's gone back to school to get her master's in social work. She wants to work in hospice. So
great.
That lets her do her thing without me bugging her. Yeah.
Tell me the difference between a producer and an engineer. I know that's a dumb question, but I really don't know.
It's not a dumb question at all. And you can be a producer and an engineer at the same time. But the engineer is the one who sits at the console and does all of the technical stuff. And that's sort of a different hat than the producer. I mean, you can be both, right?
Right.
At the same time, but a lot of times the producer will be the one with the vision, and the one who has the creative input to work with the artists and kind of makes final decisions.
Okay.
Or a mix, or picking songs. In our case with Restless Heart, Tim was not an engineer, and his co-producer Scott did all the engineering. An amazing talent. He ended up producing Brooks and Dunn and Alan Jackson and on and on and on. He's just a great. He's currently producing Blake Shelton and many others. But he cut his teeth on Restless Heart, and then went to the big time after that. But he did. Well, Scott had an input into all aspects of the producing of the project. But in addition, he was a genius behind the console.
Sounds like it. If he's playing, sounds like it. Where do you get your inspiration for writing songs?
From everyday people.
Everyday people.
Sometimes it'll be, I'll get inspired by something I'll read, or I'll get inspired by a musical idea in my head, or I'll just, I used to work with the guy. I was a staff writer at Warner Chapel in Nashville for a while, and one of the guys that I loved to write with, he would just, read the headlines, or, a magazine article, or he'd hear somebody say something and he'd write it on a cocktail napkin, or, and then that'd be the title, So anytime we would get together for coffee in the mornings when I was a staff writer, because you just, go down to the office and we'd go into these rooms. It's kind of like at practice rooms, at a college, where you'd go, practice a piano or whatever it was. And but there's a piano in there, and, a couch or whatever. And we'd just sit down there and, kick around ideas and work on, come up with songs, and we'd give them to our song manager, like what Jeff was. And, they would pitch the songs to different artists. We'd get what was called a tip sheet, which was who's recording, what artists are recording, and when. And so we could say, hey, let's write a song for such and so, and try to write something that they would, be interested in.
Cool. I didn't know that.
It was fun. It was really fun.
That's really interesting. Do you have a favorite Restless Heart song?
Probably I'll Still Be Loving You.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Would be my all-time favorite, just because of the way that it's affected so many people's lives, that, whether it was the first dance at their wedding, or, Mark, see, all of the songs, though, they're like kids to us because
Right. You love
they
them
were
all.
all good to us, all of them. And you know, we had, you know, you can't pick a favorite child, although, you know,
Sure,
if
I
I had
understand.
if I had to, but really was a what we call a career record for us. Like I'll Still Be Loving You, like When She Cries. They, you know, these were records that were the cornerstones of our career. They sort of defined us as artists, and so those are probably the, you know, the ones that, from a business standpoint, they were the cornerstones. But you know, there were a lot of deep cut B-sides, you know, River of Stone, New York, Hold Her Tight. But it just, you know, there's a bunch of them. I just have to go through.
Well, it was kind of a
it was such an honor to be in the band and record all of these songs for so many years, and tour behind it, and meet so many interesting people, and get to work with so many artists, and
what an honor.
travel so many places. Oh yeah, man. I just am so grateful. I've had so many opportunities that I have seized on, and you know, great organizations that I've been fortunate enough to be included in. So I just thank God every day for it.
Yeah, I have two more questions for you.
Okay.
The band, y'all stayed together for 40 years. What do you think was the key for y'all staying together for so long? Was there a secret recipe, or what do you think the reason was?
I think it was our well, it was dumb luck, a lot of it, you know, but in the early days, it was a lot of testosterone and posturing and, you know, egos that all young men have, you know. That's why they're driven to success.
Right.
In fact, the band actually got easier as we aged because, you know, we realized that we had something really special, and began to appreciate each other as people, and, you know, support each other through hard times and that kind of thing. The bass player, Paul, and I are, you know, brothers from another mother, and, you know, run buddies. And he's been such a faithful friend. You know, he's family. John and I, same thing. John Dietrich, he's such a great guy. Everyone in the band is, you know, Larry's a great guy. Greg's a great guy. We've had great managers and booking agents, you know, a great label. Just, you know, it's just like, you know, you get to work with your best friends, and we'd get on that tour bus and hit the road. And back in the day, we were out for months at a time.
Right.
Then, you know, the last 20 years of it, we were, for the most part, you know, what we'd call weekend warriors. You know, we'd leave on Thursday and come home on Sunday or Monday. And then we'd have a few days at home to be with our families and to pursue other things. But yeah, back in the early days, we were on the road all the time. And as soon as we'd get home, we'd take a shower and go down to RCA and start making phone calls to all of the radio stations in the country. We'd have a list, you know, it was a full day's work to just, you know, make a phone call and say, hey, this is Dave Innis from Restless Heart, just, you know, checking in with you, see how you're doing. And letting you know we got a new single coming out, and we hope you'll, you know, give a listen to it and see if it's something that would work for your list.
Marketing there.
Oh man, they worked us hard. There were some people that I looked forward to talking to. There were DJs and program directors, but in the very beginning, you know, it was a hard sell because they didn't know who we were, and they didn't know us, and they had artists that they'd worked with. Maybe they didn't like our style of country. You know, there was, at the same time that Restless Heart was kind of coming with this sort of new, at the time, a new direction a bit. Direction's the wrong word, but a different sound, a different style than the traditional country that had come before us. Coincidentally, the kind of country music that I like the most, and I mentioned some of those artists earlier, the legacy artists, but they would go, well, you're ruining country music. I'd say, well, gosh, I'm sorry you feel that way. We're not trying to ruin country music. We're trying to expand it and bring a whole new demographic of listeners into country music so that they can, discover all of these other, more traditional artists that they would not have exposure to if they hadn't been pulled in and started listening to country music. Right. And anyway, that was my sales pitch.
That was a good one. Last question. What advice do you have to give someone who is trying to make it in the music business?
Well,
I know you got to have luck.
Well, that's the standing in the right place at the right time.
Right.
But my advice would be that, prepare as much as you can and try to make yourself available so that when the window of opportunity opens or when the door opens, you can get your foot in it and you can walk through that door, because those opportunities will generally come if you put in the due diligence, but that won't keep that door open. If you want to walk through a door and then, stay and keep walking through the next door and the next door and the next door, you've got to be ready.
To prepare yourself.
And that means that, even if it doesn't stay open for you and you don't find the level of success ultimately, looking back, you'll know that you gave it your very best shot and that you were consistent, that you were professional, that you were easy to work with, that you were engaging and, sincere and generous with your time and talent.
Gotcha.
And success is not necessarily selling records and, being on the big stage and, brushing your teeth at truck stops all across America. Success is measured by touching people's lives in a way that uplifts them. And that's what I've always tried to do, was to bring joy to the people that I came in contact with, whether it was in the music business, as an artist, or whether it was people I was working for or working with. That's the name of the game. That's what life is about, is helping others. And that's what brings us as human beings the most joy, is when we can share our joy and it comes back in so many different ways. But yeah, man, that's my advice. Just be real and get out there and get after it.
Good advice. The last thing we do on our show is a fun Fast Five. I'm not sure you're familiar with it, but there are 5 fun questions we have for you, and they're real quick. Are you ready to start?
Well, I'm a pretty long-winded guy, but I'll give it a shot.
All right, number 1. These are easy. What kind of food do you enjoy eating the most?
Whatever my wife puts in front of me.
She's a pretty good cook, I hear.
Oh, she's amazing. We'll have you over for dinner sometime.
Well, I'm going to take you up on that.
All right, you got
it. Thank you. Number 2, what was one of your favorite TV shows growing up?
I Love Lucy.
I Love Lucy.
Bonanza.
Bonanza's a good.
Yeah,
that's a good one too. Number 3, if you could pick anyone that you could have played with, who would it be?
George Jones. I played for him, but I never played with him.
Okay.
Yeah.
You had to think about that one for a minute, didn't you?
Well, there's so many.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm just trying to think of somebody that George was like meeting Elvis for me. I would have loved to have played with Elvis too.
Oh, absolutely.
But I played with a lot of the guys that had played and sung for Elvis in his bands. But I never I wasn't, I was the next generation.
Sure.
But George was around for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Meeting George Jones for the first time for me was like meeting Elvis. I was absolutely awestruck.
Gotcha. Do you have a favorite pastime hobby?
I love to, I like to bicycle.
Okay.
I used to be a motorcycle guy, but that I'm too old to take a motorcycle. I about killed myself on that. I had a Harley. I about killed myself on it, too many times to even list. Because every time I got on it, I wanted to see how fast it would go.
Oh my Lord. Can't do that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But I like to cycle. I like to travel, if it's with my wife.
Sure.
I love to eat. I love to eat.
Well, the fifth question, it's funny you mentioned Elvis because that's part of my fifth question. Do you prefer Elvis or the Rolling Stones?
Do I have to choose?
No, you don't have to.
No way. I've seen the Stones. And
yeah, I have too.
Restless Heart did a cover of Honky Tonk Woman that's pretty amazing. Yeah. But I don't know. I can't pick between those two. They're both reasons, they're giants.
I'd have to pick Elvis because I'm a big Elvis fan, but that's just me.
Go ahead. You know what? I have a buddy that I just did a project for who is a fantastic Elvis impersonator, and his name's Jim Cartwright, and he used to work out in Vegas, and Elton came to one of his shows and then came back to his dressing room afterwards and said, I just want to tell you, you do Elvis better than I do Elvis. He's really good. So I did a tribute to Elvis project with him, and it was really fun to work on. Nothing but
that was
for Elvis. Let me tell you what. That guy,
sure.
Oh man, he's influenced so much of our modern music, and of course, he was influenced by all of the artists that came before him. All the blues.
Primarily. Absolutely. Well, that's all the time we have for today, my friend. I'm sorry we ran out of time.
Man, but we just got started. We can't. I know it.
I want to thank you.
Back part two.
I'm going to have you back part two, actually.
Heck yeah.
But anyway, I want to thank you very much for your time today.
You're so welcome.
You are a total class act, and
well, you too, Tony.
And I want to encourage everybody in this Central Texas area to get out and see Dave. Where can you tell us where you're going to be? How can they find you?
I don't know when this is going to air, but tomorrow I'm playing with the Sanger Heights Blues All Stars at Stay Classy Waco. I love that name for a jazz club. Well, it's not just jazz; they do all kinds of music there.
Sure.
So we're playing blues there, and then we're playing at a place called the Freight Bar next week, and then we're doing the Cultural Arts Festival here in Waco. And I wish I had my calendar in front of me. I can't remember when that is. And then I'm doing a duo thing for a event at the Waco has a zoo that is pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
World-class zoo, really, and we're doing some kind of an event there. And my wife keeps track of everything for me. I just, I asked for Christmas, I asked for an old-fashioned day planner because that just works best for me. I've, used to it. So I left the day planner in the house, so I don't have my schedule right in front of me. But yeah, man, I'm around.
We'll check you out.
People that want to come see me should. I've got a website, Dave Innis Music.
Okay.
And I'm all over Facebook. I've got the Dave Innis. Send me a friend request. I'm quick to respond to those. I've got Dave Innis Music. You can get the Stay Classy Waco's calendar and look for me there. Stay Classy Waco on Facebook, and I think they also have a .com. So yeah,
good deal.
Come see me. I love mingling with folks. So
you're very approachable. That's what I like about you, for sure. And for those of you, go ahead.
I've been very blessed, and I make friends easily. So come on out, everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. You will really enjoy it. I've been there. So for those of you watching, we always appreciate your time. Hit that subscribe button and tell a friend about us. Until next time, and more stories with legends. Peace out. God bless you.
Peace out.
Peace out.
Mic drop.